Here's what some people are saying about the Projection Booth podcast.
The Projection Booth is single-handedly the greatest film podcast you could ever listen to or could possibly want.
Top notch. 5 stars. This has quickly become one of my favorite film-related podcasts. Always interesting.
A completely unpretentious yet fully comprehensive look at films from all genres.
The Projection Booth podcast, with new episodes available every week at projectionboothpodcast.com.
You know something. What is it?
I'm scared, Pancho.
Bullshit. You ain't afraid of no man.
There's something out there waiting for us. And it ain't no man.
You are listening to the In the Mouth of Dorkness podcast. Here are Brad, Lisa, Brian, and Darren.
Welcome to another edition of the ITMODcast podcast. With me is Brian Young, the Turtle Dork.
Come on, do it, come on, kill me, I'm here, kill me, I'm here, kill me, come on, kill me,
just won't stop,
I'm here, come on, do it now, kill me.
And also joining us is Lisa Gullickson, wife Dork.
I don't think he gives a shit.
And Brad Gullickson, mouth Dork.
You can't see the eyes of the demon until him come calling.
And I'm your host, Darren Smith, the Disco Dork.
You ghosting this motherfucker. I don't care who you are back in the world. You give her our position one more time, I'll bleed you. Real quiet. Leave you here. Got that?
And welcome to the ITMODcast podcast, ITMOD Film Club. Yay!
Anytime.
And
I like the one that you did, Brian. You really committed.
Does he say it that many times?
He does.
Right here.
He does, yeah.
Wow.
This ITMOD Film Club episode, we have John McTiernan's action masterpiece, Predator.
Yeah.
Whose pick was this? Who decided Predator? Was it
Brad's pick.
Yeah, why'd you choose Predator?
Because it's the greatest movie ever made, and I thought it was time that we did the Citizen Kane of Citizen Kanes, also known as Predator.
Yeah.
Where's this on your list of all time?
It is number 31. That's not a fucking lie. Check my letterbox.
And it's not like Brad's seen 32 movies. This is high on his list.
Okay.
He's seen a lot of movies.
Yeah, you're right.
All right, so I hope all of our listeners are ready to discuss Predator. It seems, going by the Twitter feed with the hashtag ITMODfilmclub, seems like there are quite a few people who are actively engaged in revisiting this film.
Well, I got to give a shout out to @CM Beckett 1972.
Yeah.
Because when we announced Predator as our next ITMOD Film Club, he watched it immediately for the first time,
yes.
mind you. Yeah. And he's not a spring chicken. You're old, Chris.
Hey, Chris.
You should have seen it already. But he watched it, and then he immediately did a tweet storm.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, I've got 3 weeks to watch this thing. I'm going to wait till the night before, and then I'm going to tweet storm. But it turns out all our listeners, all 3 of them, they decided to watch it last night as well.
Yeah.
So Billy and Chris Chaka and Dustin, last night on Twitter, using the ITMOD Film Club hashtag, it was so much fun to follow that semi-live stream.
And they were watching it in fugue. Nobody started it at the same time.
Yeah, because I started it the night before and was tweeting about Predator. And then I believe Predator 2. And then last night I finished up with Predators and then Alien vs. Predator Requiem.
So you watched all of them?
No, not AVP. I haven't watched Paul W.S. Anderson's film. But
why you hating on my guy?
I'm going to rectify that. Someone was generous enough to provide me with a Blu-ray copy of the film, so I will be watching that.
It'd be interesting to see what you were talking about with Chris Beckett. He said he saw it for the first time. So I'm interested to see, like, especially that movie being 30 years old this year.
That's crazy. That's just bollocks.
What he thinks about the film, watching it as a grown man from a movie that came out in 87.
Well, we're going to hit some of that stuff.
He wasn't the only person watching it for the first time. I also watched it for the first time.
As a grown woman.
As a grown woman. That's a more valuable perspective these days.
Brian.
Absolutely. I'm sorry. I saw the film as a 9-year-old boy. Sorry.
What, yesterday?
No, for the first time. I saw it in '87 when it came out.
I know that movie scared the shit out of me when I was little.
Well,
Okay.
let's actually start there with our first experiences, not Lisa's, because hers is an old woman's perspective. Let's talk about the little young boy,
All right.
the perspective that matters. 1987. I was 8 years old. I actually had to wait a couple years until it got onto HBO. So I think it was 1989. So I was 10 when I saw Predator for the first time.
Yeah.
I convinced my grandfather to take my cousin and I to my aunt's house, who was out of town but had the HBO connection, to watch the Mike Tyson fight, which lasted 30 seconds, literally, and then was followed up with a screening of Predator, a film that I was desperate to see because by this point I already was a Schwarzenegger maniac, thanks to Commando and Conan the Barbarian, and let's see what else would have come out before this. Well, Running Man was also 1987.
Did Red Heat come out before?
No, Red Heat was after. Red Heat was after.
Okay.
But I might have seen Running Man before I'd seen Predator.
Okay.
Anyway, I was over the moon, crazy excited to see this film. And in some ways, it's a typical Schwarzenegger movie. In some other ways, it's very much not just a straight-up kill fest. This is not Commando.
Right.
John McTiernan, who would go on to direct Die Hard, I mean, they are really trying to do a Wild Bunch, Magnificent Seven kind of film.
Yeah.
10 Little Indians.
And 10 Little Indians. And that's, as a child that I really responded to. And we talked a little bit on our last week in Dork with Jim Brown and Slaughter and Masculinity. These uber males who step off of this chopper and take this job from R.G. Armstrong to go into the jungle to rescue this cabinet minister. For the first 30 minutes of this movie, there's no alien, except as at Chris_Chaka mentions, the first scene could be from a Star Trek movie. And I wanted to jump over to Lisa real quick. When you see that spaceship, what do you think?
Well, I said it out loud. I said, I didn't know that this was a space movie. Which I guess just goes to show how little I've contemplated Predator, because I knew that he was like some kind of otherworldly creature. But I guess I did not expect a spaceship to be in the first shot of this film. I just didn't.
Yeah. But going to your point, talking about our first experience, like
I just skipped over that because I had said my piece, and then I was like, "Fuck you, Brian and Darren. I don't care about your childhood stories, and I don't care about my wife's story. It's all about Brad."
But the film came out in '87. I was 9 years old, and this was a time when, like, of course, with R-rated movies, and this was like big. '86, '87 was some of RoboCop, Predator. I remember, I think we did a double feature that day because this was, I think, the same year that Beverly Hills Cop 2 came out.
Oh man, what a double feature!
Yeah, and I would have to go see movies with my brother and his friends because I wasn't old enough to see a lot of these movies, but I was so into them. And to me, like, movies were like just bigger than life. And I talk about it before, like going to see RoboCop and being in that scene with those bad guys in that van, how claustrophobic it is as a child watching that. Like, it really it instills you with like a lot of like fear and anxiety. And I got that watching Predator because you see a lot of, like you say, this Dirty Dozen group and like these manly men, like, Schwarzenegger and Carl Weathers, and you see that handshake and everything.
God.
So like
I have failed at life because I will never be able to do a handshake that way.
And then like when you see the Predator come, not to jump too far ahead, but like he starts to like take these people out, like as a viewer, as a 9-year-old boy watching this, you're like, man, you're seeing like these like manly men kind of like get like killed by this creature, and it's like, it's a little unsettling, but it fills you with like a certain type of anxiety that also gives you excitement while watching it, especially at that age. So I don't know, I really responded to it. I really enjoyed watching this as a kid.
The first time I watched it, I didn't catch it in the theaters. I had to watch it on the phone with my best friend at the time, Stephen Cadiz. He had seen the film, and he kept telling me to watch it, and I wanted to watch it. And so I watched it, and when it came on, I was scared. And so I called him on the phone, and I was like, "Man, I don't want to watch this. What's about to happen? What's about to happen?" I just remember him laughing, saying, "Just watch, just wait." And I ended up watching that whole movie with him on the phone. Like, I didn't want to get off the phone because I was at home by myself. It was one of those times I skipped school for like 30 days straight, I think. So I watched that movie with him on the phone because like I was terrified. And so yeah, Arnold Schwarzenegger is in it. He's this huge guy. Apollo Creed is in the movie. He's a huge guy. Jesse the Body Ventura is this huge guy, and they have all sorts of armament. They're cutting down trees with ammunition, but like Brian said, they're being taken out like they were my size, like they had my skill level. Like it didn't matter how big they were. It didn't matter what type of weapons they had.
Yeah, you wouldn't expect that.
They were dying, right? And because this was a film that came from the Ridley Scott Alien school of not showing the creature and holding off on revealing the creature, there was that inherent sense of mystery and dread.
Well, actually, in a lot of ways, it's like Spielberg's Jaws, because originally they did have a creature on set in a very different design, a costume worn by Jean-Claude Van Damme. It's this really terrible looking insectoid, very skinny creature that if you take a look at our Twitter feed, you see these behind the scenes photos, it is laughably bad. And I love that John McTiernan would take shots of this ridiculous insectoid to the studio and said, look, you need to drop some more money and get Stan Winston, and we need to throw some cash into a seriously threatening creature, or we have nothing. And that's what they did, and Stan Winston came in at the end, and with a little help from James Cameron, who told him, hey, I've always wanted to see something with some mandibles. And that's how you got the Predator creature. It's also how you ended up getting that Mono E Spaceman fight at the end, because now that they've thrown all this money into this suit, they really have to show it off. More on that later, though. The Thomas brothers who wrote this film, they wanted to they took their inspiration from the classic film The Most Dangerous Game, which is about Dr. Zarkov who goes into the jungle to hunt William Holden, and because man is the most dangerous game. But for the Thomas brothers, the most dangerous game was man, yes, but what's the most dangerous man? A soldier. And that's how you get Predator. And, I want to just talk about that crew a little bit. You mentioned the physicality of Jesse Ventura and Carl Weathers and Arnold Schwarzenegger. But that whole team is really fantastic. This is a group of guys worthy of the Magnificent Seven, the Wild Bunch, Bill Duke. McTiernan referred to Bill Duke as the ringer because that guy... And watching it this time, I mean, his performance, his acting is top tier. He could do circles around a lot of these other guys.
Oh, yes. And him and his interaction with Jesse Ventura, like their friendship, their pairing, and their history that is only alluded to and hinted at just through minimal lines of dialogue between the two, and in his mourning of him and lamenting the loss of his friend. This go round, I was really wanting to see their spinoff movie, like what they went through to get them to that point where they're that tight of a pairing.
Yeah, give me that prequel.
And they do a great job of building history with these characters without with a lot of exposition.
Yeah, name checking like, oh, this is not as bad as that time in Afghanistan or Cambodia.
Yeah, and it really draws you as an audience to really connect with these characters without having to give you so much, but you learn so much history about them.
And, of course, you have Shane Black.
Yeah. As Hawkins.
He's the guy who really is only there to tell pussy jokes. Definitely of its era, Predator. But, they brought Shane Black on because the studio thought the film needed another rewrite. But, Shane Black says he didn't touch that script. He went down there, he had fun in South America, but... that script is the Thomas Brothers movie. Okay. So then you have Sonny Landham from 48 Hours, and the famous story around him is the insurance company didn't want him on board unless they hired a bodyguard to keep him at bay, because he had grown such a notorious reputation on films like 48 Hours for just tearing up shit and getting into fights and just causing general mayhem.
Really?
That the insurance company's like, you need to keep this guy on watch. So if you want him in your movie, I need to see that he can be contained.
Really? Wow.
And that's saying something, because you're thinking like, well, Arnold's going to be on set, right?
And Jesse Ventura,
right,
who is, living a life not only physically pumped with steroids, but mentally pumped with steroids. That guy is all terrifying ego.
Yeah. And Bill Duke is not 5'6", right? Bill Duke's on set too. We still have to take an insurance policy out on this dude.
I mean,
that's crazy.
That's crazy. There's so much testosterone on this set. I'm amazed how John McTiernan was able to just kind of contain and.
So
wow.
I think this would be a good spot to go back to at CM Beckett 1972, and he tweeted many weeks ago, like a good ITMOD listener, that watching it from the point of view of 2017, I could do without the overemphasis on the hyper masculinity, especially Jesse Ventura, who is a caricature and just plays that. But I love the line, "I don't have time to bleed."
It's a great line.
So, in defense of the over masculinity, part of what is portrayed in the film as far as the machismo and even the pussy jokes of Shane Black's character Hawkins, a lot of that is not dissimilar from my experience in our modern military.
And Jesse Ventura as a former Navy SEAL.
Right. So the way that they talk and interact, there is a lot of truth in that. Now, the masculinity in Arnold being pumped and having to take off his shirt when they're setting up the booby traps and all that.
He has to have free range to tie all those knots.
I think
flex.
I think part of that is because of that era. We were in that era of Schwarzenegger and Stallone being the action hero, the macho action hero. But also, I think it goes to what Brian was saying in that. Well, it sets you up with this false sense of security. You have these big macho badass guys, and then it raises the stakes when these guys are taken out. That masculinity means nothing once the introduction of the threat, the alien, the predator. And so, for me, I think it would. I don't know that film would have felt the same if there would have been that same sense of, oh shit, these guys are in big trouble. If that masculinity was scaled back or non-existent, and not saying it had to be there, but I do think that for me, especially as a younger viewer, and I don't know if it would have been the same if I was of age as Chris, but I think that a lot of it, like Brian said, was these guys are the big dudes, like big guns. They have the big guns, like
the beefiest of the beefy.
Yeah, like Jesse Ventura got taken out without being able to do anything, and his size meant nothing ultimately when he was killed. And so for me, I just remember thinking, oh shit, there's so when, as you mentioned at the end, when this mono alien whatever between Schwarzenegger, between Dutch and the Predator, that matchup was uneven at that point because Schwarzenegger is huge, but doesn't matter. The Predator is bigger, and so. I don't know. I'd be curious to see what that experience is like had that masculinity not been as prevalent in the movie. What about you, Lisa, from a female perspective, as far as all the testosterone that's just swirling around in the movie?
Honestly, I didn't even consider the hypermasculinity as any kind of downside to the film.
Right.
I was anticipating that I was going into a man's film and a man's movie.
Yeah.
And while I do think that there should be more female representation in cinema, I still don't mind watching a man's film. And just, I am amused by the idea of getting this glimpse into men's psyche and how men would write manly men and how men would portray manly men.
Yeah. And how men would collect toys of these manly men.
Exactly. And, really, and how, like, the portrayal of, Arnold Schwarzenegger has to take off of his shirt and Carl Weathers has to take... I don't mind Carl Weathers taking off his shirt. Every time he took off his shirt, I swooned a little bit. There's something about how compact everything is. It was just like, so organized. I was just like, wow. I don't know why. I maybe because I've seen a lot of Schwarzenegger, so it was just, you got to mix it up, I guess. But I found that element interesting, knowing that this is a movie for men to watch and how men clearly have this deep desire to see other men shirtless as I guess a means to project yourself into that role and go like, well, like potentially locked inside whatever I've got going on is a Carl Weathers or an Arnold Schwarzenegger. But
hey, The Rock told me all I need to do is exercise 8 hours a day every day for the rest of my life, and I could be that size.
But I did think that they managed the story did manage to work in some sensitivity and some nuance into these characters. Yeah. You guys have already mentioned the relationship between Blaine and Mac. Yeah. Clearly there was something very deep and very masculine about their love for each other, but still that love created a vulnerability for Mac and, led to his eventual unraveling. And also, what's his name? Shane Black's character, Hawkins. Clearly, he had some kind of complex about being a smaller guy, and that's why he had to make these jokes, because that's what he had to offer as the skinny guy on the group. Yeah. So I still
as at WB Doss, our boy Billy from the ITMOD Chatcast says, that's basically why he gets taken out, because of his poor pussy joke humor. He's the first one to go.
Predator's like, all right, enough already.
I feel like the hypermasculinity is part of this action drama, and I also think is something that men do have to express artistically. Like it's inside them, but like the idea of better and more diverse, female representation about movies is not that we should no longer make any men-centric movies. We just need to make more movies in general.
Yeah. Well, I swoon a little bit too when I see Carl Weathers' ads.
Boy bands.
But it's interesting. It's interesting though. I would like to kind of see if this movie was to be written today, how they would portray that type of masculinity as opposed to 30 years ago.
I mean, masculinity has changed.
It's changed a lot. So it'd be interesting to see if this movie was never made. Today.
It's a long journey from Jesse Ventura and Arnold Schwarzenegger to Ben Affleck as Batman.
Yeah,
but you know what's
interesting?
A couple
shirt sizes down.
It's that journey. It may be long in that respect, but if you just look from Predator 1 to Predator 2. The masculinity of Arnold, Ventura, Carl Weathers to Danny Glover's character and his lead, and the lead core group of those people in that film, not a lot of time has passed in the making of the first and the second Predator, but in the way that an action hero is portrayed is vastly different, because between those two films, we had the advent of John McClane. And so we had the receding hairline. We had the guy who's not cut up. He was of medium build. And so when you look at Danny Glover, you don't think Carl Weathers physically or physicality. You think, oh, okay, that's Murtaugh.
Look, Darren, I know you just want to turn this into a Predator 2 film club.
No, I'm just speaking on the idea of masculinity and how over time, it's, if anything, it fluctuates. We have moments where...
No, you're right. You're right.
But I also think it's an archetype thing, like the soldier versus the cop, like the brawn versus the brains,
Well, but also, like, this was also cops used to be, we had, like, Stallone was Cobra. He was a cop. So, again, it fluctuates, because you have Clint Eastwood, who's not big and muscular, but he's still a different type of masculine. Then you got brawny Cobra Cobretti, and then you got Slim, and you got Roger Murtaugh and Martin Riggs, who aren't huge guys, but still a different form of masculinity. So I think it kind of fluctuates.
Yeah. Also, if you just compare the diversity of the two casts, Predator 1 and Predator 2.
Oh, absolutely.
Brad and I did do a double feature of Predator 1 and Predator 2. And I did have this concern, if I watch these two movies back to back, that I might get them confused, the details confused. And then I was like, actually, no, that's not going to be a problem.
Yeah.
I just think that I just don't want to see if this movie was written today, I don't want to see a Predator with Ashton Kutcher and Justin Timberlake.
Well, we're not going to.
What are they going to do?
Why not?
Snark and sing him into a corner?
No. We already know.
Sexy back.
I mean, we're getting ahead of ourselves, but Shane Black is bringing the Predator back to the big screen, and we are not getting Justin Bieber and his SWAT team.
Oh man!
But I'm just saying, just the idea of
love
how
the idea
people
of a
perceive masculinity today as opposed to then. But you're right, with the cast that Shane Black is bringing into this new Predator, I think does kind of harken back to what we saw in '87, but kind of updated in how we perceive masculinity today, with having somebody like Keegan-Michael Key or somebody like that. So it's going to be interesting to see that dynamic next year when we see this movie compared to the original Predator.
So let's talk about the structure of Predator, because I think that for me, it's one of the strongest characteristics of this film, and why I hold it in such high regard in the pantheon of action movies and science fiction films, because it starts off, a routine men on a mission film. They're going to the jungles to retrieve some lost soldiers to find some people.
And again, they get the mission from R.G. Armstrong, who was a staple of Peckinpah films, The Wild Bunch, Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, Ride the High Country. And so it does feel like McTiernan and Schwarzenegger and the gang are taking the baton from the Western into the 1980s.
And so they're given this mission, so they go to the jungles to carry out this mission. And the movie plays like that for the first act and into the second act, because the end of the first act or somewhere in the second act culminates with an assault on this not a village, but an outpost in the jungles. And the Predator's not involved. It's just a full-on action sequence. The Arnold Schwarzenegger squad, Dutch's squad, against these bad guys. And it's a full-blown, missing in action.
It feels like
sequence.
the climax of Commando.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah.
And so it gives you it feels like Commando, that type of movie. It doesn't feel like an alien is going to be in this picture. It feels like they're going to go up against an even larger army in the third act or something like that.
And again, while you're watching this, you're flashing back to that spaceship at the beginning of the film.
Yeah.
And how is this going to connect everything? And you are getting some point of view shots of the Predator's heat vision from time to time, tracking him. And we have come across a series of skinned, hanging corpses in the jungle.
Yes.
And there's some backstory about, that's Jim Hopper. What happened to Jim Hopper?
Right. And so then after we have the assault on this one outpost, that's when we get another good look, or not a good look. That's when we have a little bit more detail into what is exactly stalking these people. Because there's a scene where Mac kills a scorpion off of Carl Weathers' back, and he puts it on the ground, cleans it off with his boot. When they leave, the Predator comes and grabs it with his hand, so you get to see.
Which I need to point out from our Twitter followers, but at Chris_Chaka, he talks about, I hope that was a stunt vulture they kicked earlier on in the film. There's a vulture, one of the crew kicks it down, and that vulture goes flying. And also that scorpion.
That's a dead scorpion.
That's a real scorpion that they kill.
Sorry, Chris.
So again, Chris Beckett also said, this is something that PETA would not sign off on. The Humane Society would not sign off on Predator right now, and it is weird, honestly, even for me. I don't know. Probably the rest of most of the population, to see a scorpion get killed, it's no big deal. But it does, watching it this time in my 2017 mindset, it did take me back a bit to see that.
Another movie where they killed a real animal.
Cannibal Holocaust?
Or the Apocalypse Now.
Apocalypse Now. That's right. The buffalo.
They filmed that ritual. I mean, that thing. It was going to happen anyway.
Yeah,
they just filmed it,
Wow,
not to make excuses for killing a cow or whatever. I mean, I did have a Grand Big Mac today.
Whoa,
that Big Mac is so big now.
So at that moment when the predator they leave and the predator picks that scorpion up, you get a shot of its hand. So we understand, okay, this thing is humanoid-like in that it has 5 digits, but that hand, you can tell by the thermal outline, does not look like normal fingers. So periodically, Billy, the character played by Sonny Landham, is, from my summation, he is a Native American. He's the tracker of the group.
Yeah,
and
what's in that pouch of his? That lucky pouch he's got. What do you think?
Some ground up bones or something.
Yeah.
And so he's sensing that he's the first one in the group that's sensing that something is in the woods following them. And so this leads to what I was saying initially, where we get the sense that, okay, you got these big guys and that something is taking them out, so we should be scared. Because there's a line in the film where Pancho says, Billy, you know something's up. What is it? And Billy says, there's something out there. No, he says, something's following us or something. And he says, I'm scared. And Pancho goes, bullshit, Billy, you ain't afraid of no man. And then Billy says, there's something out there and it ain't no man. So again, that just drives home the fact that this guy who, to the rest of his group, isn't afraid of any person living on this earth, isn't afraid of a man. But whatever it is out there, it has Billy, of all people, shook. And so I think that is what the benefit of having these big macho guys in this group. I think that's the benefit of having them, is that you can have something out there unseen that is instilling fear into them. So if they're to be afraid, then as an audience member by proxy, we're to be afraid. We should worry for these guys. And so, then you have the embedded tension and drama with Carl Weathers' character and what his intentions are with that group, which I kind of appreciate. So you have multiple things going on in the story, not just a surface level, superficial action film, and them in the jungle running into an alien. You have a lot of character work going on, really.
Well, and as the CIA stooge, like with the best genre films, whether it's like Dawn of the Dead, it's really the people that are just equally as treacherous to the safety of the group.
Yeah, and so we get the first death of the film, as you mentioned earlier, Brad. It is Hawkins, the character of Hawkins, who's taken out, and the witness to the kill is the young lady that they have captive from the assault on the little village, Anna. Yeah, and she says that the jungle came alive and took him. So now the group is like, okay, what's going on? We got one of our guys dead. This lady's saying the jungle came alive and took him. The guys that we were looking for in the chopper that crashed, we found skinned bodies. Where are Hopper's men? Like, what's going on? So now everybody's like thrown into the state of confusion, and they go to search for Hawkins. And it's at this point,
we got to find his body.
Yeah, because we see his blood and his guts there, but his body's gone. So when they commence the search for Hawkins, that's when the first big guy is taken out. And I remember my very first viewing of this moment happening. Every time I see it, I think back to the first time this happened, when Jesse Ventura gets taken out. It was disturbing to me because
he has Old Painless.
Oh my God! So we have to stop. We have to stop for a moment. Any opportunity that I have to talk about Old Painless. Again, I've tweeted this out. Old Painless is easily my favorite cinematic weapon of all time.
We need to do that fistful, because obviously Old Painless.
Number one, fistful of weapons.
Yeah,
we're going to do that. It has to be Old Painless for me. To see Jesse, a part of it has to do with just how Jesse Ventura is carrying that thing around. They got this thing rigged up to an ammunition pack. By the way, people out there, especially kids, this is not how you would walk around with a minigun. Does not work like that. You need a power. There's a cable running to that gun, powering that thing. First of all, you're not carrying that on your back. Second, but in the film, Jesse Ventura has this huge backpack with the ammo in it, and the belt is coming from the backpack into the gun, feeding him the ammo. And the whirring sound that thing makes when it fires, coupled with like the the flash that's coming out of that muzzle and how it extends as long as the spinning barrels. That shit is beautiful to me. Oh my God. When he first shoots that in the film, like my eyes just light up every time. I get goosebumps.
Hold on, we have to have a quick check-in with Lisa.
Huh?
What do you think of Old Painless?
It's a big gun.
Big ass gun.
So Blaine gets taken out. Yes, he has
He gets
Old
blue
Painless.
lasered.
He gets and so and the way that scene is shot is outstanding. It's magnificent. So he's searching for the body of Hawkins. He sees a rustling in the foliage, in the greenage. He turns, and it turns out it's a skunk. So he's like, okay, it was just a skunk. He turns around. But the way that shot is framed, you kind of know something bad is going to happen. You expect maybe him to turn around and see something. But then, like, you get, like, I think the special effect used for that shot, the practical effect used for that shot is like Robert Rodriguez would have that goo gun where he would shoot a glob of like stuff at you.
Yeah, he did on Desperado.
Yeah, I think that's what they do to achieve the effect of Jesse getting shot. So he gets shot twice. Firstly, it's a shot to like his upper neck, and he's kind of stunned, and he turns around. And when he turns around, the camera frames so that you can see the predator on a branch behind him in a tree, and you see and you hear that whoosh, and then that blue flash, like you said, Lisa, strikes him in the back and blows his chest out. Mm-hmm. And the group runs around there and they find his body. And when you see that effect of Jesse Ventura, he gets rolled over and his chest is like carved out. Man, that's just a really shocking image.
No powder burns. No shrapnel.
No shrapnel.
Wound is cauterized.
The interesting thing that I liked about this movie, and this is something that I kind of learned in film school, I think, like with structuring and doing like when writing scripts and stuff like that, where they have something where it's called like, as an audience member, you're either in front of the characters, with the characters, or behind the characters. And going back to your point, when they see the skinned bodies and they're trying to figure out everything that's going on, I like the fact that we are with the characters in that moment. Like, there's no point that we're ahead of them. Like, we know what this thing is, so we're kind of, it's unraveling before us as it is for them as well, which makes it even that more kind of exhilarating and gives the audience that type of that kind of like what the fuck kind of feeling, like, because we're with them going along in this journey, because we haven't seen the Predator. We don't know what it looks like. We don't know what this is. Like, we as an audience member don't know what's going on. So we're never ahead of the characters. We're always with them throughout the story. And I think that was an interesting technique when them writing the script to keep the audience with these characters as it's going along.
The only time is, I mean, we do know a little more than they do because of the heat vision and because of that first shot in the film, the Star Trek shot.
Yeah, that. But outside of that, we're going along with them as far as like, because we haven't seen the Predator. We're trying to understand what this is, so we're kind of like with them along with that. And I like that aspect of the film.
So the death of Blaine causes an interesting thing to happen with one of the characters. And this is what Lisa mentioned earlier about the relationship between Mac and Blaine. And so the backstory that these two characters have and why I'm so interested in it and why I would like to see the spinoff movie of Mac and Blaine is because when Blaine dies, Mac is affected by it, not just momentarily. Like, Mac is affected by it until he dies.
Yeah.
Honestly, with this watch of the film, I connected with Bill Duke's Mac in a way I had not before.
Yeah.
In 20 plus years of watching this movie, I found myself at the moment of Blaine's death when, as WB Doss on Twitter so expertly describes the chopping down of the forest with machine gun fire as, everybody is shooting! Ah, motherfuckers! Eat lead! Jungle, fuck you! Way to go, Billy. That post that scene, because it's that's an extension of terror and their impotence within their situation.
Mm-hmm.
But after that, Bill Duke as Mac, when Dutch says, he was a good soldier, and Mac responds, he was my friend. From that moment on, from that line, I was with Bill Duke, and there is a version of this film in which the movie becomes Bill Duke's movie.
Man,
I am so frustrated that he doesn't become the star of this film. Because honestly, up until this moment, any one of these guys could be Ripley, right? Any one of them could take over. And, the only reason we never have any question of who's going to come out on top on this is because it's a Schwarzenegger movie. He's the dude on the poster. But I'm telling you, like, in the Fringe universe, Bill Duke is the hero of Predator.
And that movie is the best. So
he's also the first one to see the Predator, right? Because he sees the Predator's eyes.
Yeah, so he carries the emotional weight for the audience, too, like, for us to go. So, yeah.
Those eyes.
And for me, it starts before that moment, he was my friend. It starts when... It starts when he picks up Old Painless and he starts. But when he's done and they're all like, okay, what were we shooting at? And Bill Duke is standing there. Arnold Dutch says, all right, Hawkins, Pancho, put his body in a bag and grab it. Bill Duke says, no, I got it. If you watch him in that scene, Arnold Dutch is telling him, all right, what the fuck just happened? You go over here, you set up a perimeter, you go check and see if we hit anything. You grab his body. If you watch Mac, he's standing there. He's still lost in that moment. Like, his friend is still gone. And when they say, all right, put his body in the bag and get him out of here, Mac says, no, I got it. And he wants to put his friend away. And then that's when he first kneels down to his friend at that moment. And you see an extension of just that short conversation they had a couple scenes earlier before the assault, when they're like, man, it's hot as I don't know what out here. It's like the jungles of Cambodia. And then they're sharing a drink, and they're just, they're in that moment. They're in the suck together. And so, again, his lamenting the loss of his friend in that moment happens for me. The emotional weight of that is right there from the outset with him. And then it just gets even more beautiful with that line, he was my friend. So then we have them set up a perimeter at night, and that, in his character development or his character exposition or whatever, still continues when, Mac is looking up, he's on guard, he's looking up at the moon, and he's remembering an old war story, an old war experience with just him and Blaine was in this huge firefight, and bodies dropping left and right, and all their squad mates going down, and it was just them two walked out, not a fucking scratch on them. And he's just he's having that moment about his friend, and he's like, when I find the guy who did this, I'm going to cut your name in him. So I want to bring this point up. What they do in this film with these two characters who are not the main characters, who are side characters, is such strong work that when I go and watch Alien vs. Predator 2, there is a character in there who's a military a service member who, in the beginning of the film, she comes home from deployment, and while she was gone, her husband was raising their daughter, and she's dealing with having to reintegrate into their lives, and her daughter being used to dad reading her bedtime stories. So when she's home to tuck her in, I want dad to do that, and how that that's real shit. I tweeted that. That's some real shit. So I like that. But the thing that bothered me the most out of everything in AVP2, the dark cinematography or whatever it was, her husband, when the aliens come into town, the daughter screams because she looks out the window and sees something in the yard. The husband comes in, says, what's wrong? I saw a monster outside. He goes to the window. Look, honey, there's nothing out there. The alien jumps in the window, mauls him. The wife grabs the daughter and leaves. So that sets her on a journey to meet up with the core group of people who are going to be the survivors in the film. At no point, once you leave the husband getting mauled on the ground by the alien, if you were to walk into that film, Lisa, after that scene, you would never know that lady was married, and you would never know her husband just died.
Aww.
There is no mention of it happening at all. She doesn't take a moment to pause and reflect on it at all. Later on, she's all chipper and with the rest of the people. All right, I'm going to man the guns. All right, don't you crash. All right, don't you run into something. Like, she's A-okay. Everything's A-okay. You would never know that she had that traumatic incident and lost someone who was that close to her.
Right.
And so the fact that Predator takes time and does that in that way, it's just infuriating to me when you have that happen in films where Like, I'm supposed to care about this lady and her kid now, where this lady doesn't even care about her husband. Like, why should I care about these people? They aren't even real human beings. She has no heart. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so, again, it goes back to, it's a testament to the writing and the uniqueness of that script with what they were able to do with the character of Blaine to make you feel for this guy that really doesn't have a lot to do on screen.
And again, you know, with Blaine and Mac's relationship, when they first launched from home base to go find the cabinet minister, they're playing, Little Richard's Long Tall Sally. And it's like this Ride of the Valkyries situation, Apocalypse Now. Here come some badass dudes to the rescue. But when Blaine dies, the callback that Mac has to Long Tall Sally, where he is, singing it to himself in a mantra, shows that song that has meaning to these guys. It adds to that backstory. Those trips to Cambodia, those trips to Afghanistan, the relationship that they have bonded over the course of many missions. So when Blaine is missing, when Mac is losing his mind and he's doing that insane Long Tall Sally, that Long Tall Sally is, his recitation of it is really, really, really sad.
And so when we have action movies that, people will say, well, Darren, it's just an action movie. As long as it has action in it and it fits the bill. I get it. There are some movies that's all that they really care about doing, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But when I have an action movie that does that, it provides the action, it provides the suspense, but it also provides good character work, I kind of get spoiled on that. I kind of want that in all of my action movies. I kind of want to care about my characters a little bit more in all of my action films, because I see how easy they make it look with just a few lines of dialogue, just a scene or two, just a couple of seconds. Those scenes aren't 5 minutes long, when they're showing Mac looking up at the moon, or when he's singing Long Tall Sally and that going back to the opening in that helicopter. Those scenes aren't long. It doesn't take a long time. It doesn't take a lot of effort to make you care about some characters. And so for me, when I see action movies that are just about that, and they don't do anything to cement those characters in that film to give them weight, then it's less of an action film for me. Because Predator, that's why it's so special. Yeah, it has the epic handshake, and it has Arnold in it, and it has Get to the Chopper. But again, years after that movie's release, when we go back and we revisit it, the thing that we talk about the most in this conversation that we just keep going back over and over on is the character work in it. And that says something about a movie, an action film, especially from the late 80s.
So, Lisa, first watch, Mac and Blaine, they're buddies. Blaine dies. Mac has a hole in his chest, metaphorically, the way that Blaine has one physically.
Right.
When they catch a glimpse of the Predator and Mac goes after him, after there's that scene with the hog and he's like wildly butchering that beast. And the way that beast, like that blubber twitches in the moonlight is makes me
he did the Apollo Creed twitch.
Yeah. Oh damn, Darren. When they finally get a vision of the Predator, and Mac goes running off after him. Dylan follows suit rather than Dutch. Dylan's like, "Look, I fucked you guys over. Let me go rescue Mac from this alien."
Right.
And then they have their final moments. Were you surprised with what happened to Carl Weathers and Bill Duke?
It was sad to have Mac so undone to the point where he just had no comeuppance on the Predator.
Yeah.
So he had this huge character arc and changed, like, this traumatic thing happened to him, and then for him to be just dispatched. And I'm not saying that is a bug. That's a feature. Like, that moment in the film is heartbreaking.
Yeah, because when we were watching it last night, you were. It appeared to be pretty surprised by both of their deaths.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. And it was just one after the other as well.
And when Carl Weathers gets his arm lasered off, Lisa goes like, "Oh, I guess everybody's gonna die then."
Yeah.
Which is a great practical effect. Holy crap!
So
when his
cool.
arm comes off and it hits the ground and it's jiggling, Apollo Creed jiggle, like man, that's a great practical effect.
It's great, like just Carl Weathers, the way he plays that scene when you have that extreme close up on his face and the camera is slowly kind of moving as his eyes are trying to track to where the predator is, and he sees him, and it's beautiful.
That whole sequence, look, because when he first sees him, he's like, "Oh shit." Because the predator gives him that tease. Like,
yeah.
He goes, "Oh shit, okay, he's not crazy." So then he goes out there, and then when he and Mac are, because at this point there is up until this point there's tension between Carl Weathers and Mac, because Carl Weathers, Dylan, he's an outsider,
right?
Yeah, he's not one of the core group. He's the CIA man. He's the government stooge, and so there's been this tension there. But at this point now, he's on the same playing field as Mac, and he's there to help him. He understands that.
And they seem to and they have like a plan. They're like going to one come in on one side and one come on the other. And I'm in there too. I'm like, yeah, this sounds like it's gonna work, fellas.
Gotcha.
So they both have scores to settle.
Yeah.
And so and Dylan has a character arc as well. Because, again, up until this moment, he's been viewing the group as expendable. Mm-hmm. He's trying to use them to get what he wants. Yeah, and to get out and get what he wants. But then right before he goes to chase after Mac, Dutch says, "Hey, we're going for the chopper. You're not going to make it." And he goes, I know. Maybe I can get even.
Right.
And so at this point, Dylan knows that there's a chance that he might not come back. But he's willing to do that to give them time to get away. And so he has a character arc where he's trying to now sacrifice himself for the rest of the group. So, and again, that makes it all the more tragic, this situation, when both he and Mac are dispatched in that way. But that's a great sequence, the way that's shot and set up. Because like you said, Lisa, it gets you to the point where like, okay, they got a plan. Are they going to at least hurt him? Are they going to do something? No.
No, they're not. Do you know who has even less of a glorified death moment is Billy. Poor Billy.
Let's talk about that. At CM Beckett 1972 again, he says, "Wish we'd seen Billy's final stand. We get the setup, throw away guns, take off shirt, wield the blade and cut himself, standing on a log stretched across a chasm, and then all we get is a scream through the forest to tell us he's dead."
That battle probably did not go down like how you think it did, Chris. That's probably why it didn't show.
He might as well have just left his shirt on.
This is what happened.
Chris says, "I wanted that knife fight, even if it was quick." What I'll say is, you don't get the knife fight here, but you do get that knife fight in Predators with the Yakuza.
Yes, and it's probably the best mono moment. But here's what happened. This is why. Because Predator came down into that log. He saw Billy standing out there, and he just kicked the log. And Billy's screaming was him falling. So it was not glorious. But yeah, so at this moment, the group is whittled down to Dutch,
Poncho,
Anna,
and
and
Anna.
Poncho. And I said this last night. I really love the character of Poncho. He's not like the biggest guy, but he's so focused and on point. Like he seemed like a really good soldier and squad mate. Come to find out, he was actually a service member. He was actually in the military. Prior to getting into acting.
He's a Vietnam vet.
He actually was a service member in the Vietnam War, which I did not know. So, but yeah, like I really liked his character. But unfortunately, he is also dispatched as well. And then we get this moment, the classic and iconic moment when Arnold tells Anna to get to the chopper. And so this is when...
It's not chopper.
It's chopper. Sorry. Get to the chopper. And so... This is when we have Arnold by himself now.
And again, I just want to insert from our fans here.
Yeah.
At Chris_Chaka says, McTiernan gets some fantastic reactions from Schwarzenegger. His best acting is nonverbal. I mean, what do you guys think of Arnie? We've talked a lot about all the other guys, but what about our lead, our hero?
I mean,
Chris is right.
Yeah, thinking back to this era of Arnold Schwarzenegger and the movies that he was coming out with in the late 80s and 90s, I mean, you could argue that this is probably one of his better roles. I think McTiernan did do a great job of getting a good performance, a very nonverbal performance, physical performance out of him. And we saw what McTiernan did next year with Die Hard, kind of flipping the action genre and bringing somebody like Bruce Willis and being able to tell that story as well. So I think he did a great job.
He's like the opposite of Schwarzenegger, a very cocky dude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but having that vulnerable action hero. So we saw what McTiernan was able to do throughout the course of his career in the action genre. And I think that's a testament to what he was able to do with Schwarzenegger, because he does give a great physical performance, a lot of nonverbal cues and reactions I thought were really great, and weren't just like shock moments where he's just kind of like reacting to somebody being killed, but actual moments of like fear and terror that you really see on his face throughout that whole film.
I mean, not to jump ahead, but his last shot of the film, him in that helicopter covered in mud in the aftermath of the explosion,
beat down, spin.
Yeah,
that's a Schwarzenegger that I don't think you've seen anywhere else in his career.
Yeah.
And that shows the importance of a good director. Brad, you mentioned in the Weekend Dork when we talked about Nicholas Hoult in Fury Road, and then you see him in the trailer for Collide, and you go, man, what happened? But it really goes back to a director being able to pull out performances from these actors. Because you'll have actors like Samuel Jackson, and he'll give you a performance like Steven in Django Unchained. But then you'll watch like some of his movies like The Samaritan or whatever, where he's just there, and they're not necessarily as commanding or memorable. So I really do think that, yes, an actor is half of the equation. They have to bring the capacity to do these things. But then it's also the director to have the capacity to bring out a performance and say, that's not a good take. I know you can do it better. I know you have it in you. Let's try it again. And knowing when to say, okay, this is the one. This is the take. And so, it's the same for Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yeah, he hasn't been given a lot of scripts and films that even call for him to be, some on Denzel's level. But again, when you have
doesn't need to be.
But when you have a script, it doesn't need to be like that. But Predator doesn't need to have as complex a script and character work as it does, but it does. And when you have a director who's able to see that and be able to give nuanced performances, get nuanced performances out of Schwarzenegger, I think it just helps the material. I think it just helps the film. So at this point, Schwarzenegger realizes that he may be able to fight the Predator on, just on a more primal level. He understands. He comes to the understanding that the Predator is only able to see him through his body heat. So then you have him covering himself in mud. And then you have that montage sequence where he's taking it back to, the primal roots and fashioning weapons out of the environment and setting up booby traps. And like that whole sequence and how that was done, and listening to the writers talk about that last night and how they were trying to make that very dreamlike. And you watch Arnold's performance in that. He's not saying much, and he doesn't really have a lot to do, but you do have to get a sense that this is a guy who is he's falling back on a last resort. Like, this is all I got. This is what I have to use. So let me do the best that I can and let me try to persevere, because it's self-preservation at this point. He's just trying to survive. And the way he plays that, it's really the tone of it is very serious. It's not tongue in cheek. It's not schlocky for what type of film this is. And I think Schwarzenegger really sells it. And so they have that. So this is what I noticed. So you have the iconic moment, the face-to-face. Predator removes his mask, where you had the first the reveal. Lisa, had you ever seen what he looked like prior to when he had his?
Yeah, because Brad has toys.
Oh yeah,
so I've seen the toys.
That's right.
they're all over the place.
Okay, so we have the reveal of his face, and as a kid, Brian and also Brad, when you first saw that, like, what was your reaction to Stan Winston's imagination brought to fruition?
I don't know. It was a little freaky. I mean, I can't really recall my first reaction to when I actually saw him when he took his mask off, but I knew I was shocked at it.
I mean, for me, when you see the mask, because over the course of the film, as you start to get a little more longer lasting glimpses of the character, you start to realize, oh, he's got a mask on, and then during that final fight, he definitely has a mask on. I'm anticipating that mask coming off, and I'm hoping that mask comes off, and I'm praying that the mask comes off. So when he finally shows down, he squares off. He's like, "Look, you don't got your tools on you. I'm not going to have any of my tools on." And he pulls that gas plug out, and like the slow pornographic reveal of. Of the mandible face. It's one of the best creature makeups ever.
Yeah. You know what really got me though was his size. Because throughout the whole film, we don't see the Predator in relation to like any other character, and with Schwarzenegger being the biggest, manliest person on this cast, there are a couple of shots at that end when you see them. Dwarfed, when you see him like toe to toe, and you see how big. And I think that's what I had a bigger reaction to, as opposed to like his face was just his sheer size. Because we talk about again like these group of men, but then you see how, like you say, how he dwarfs Arnold Schwarzenegger, and you see like, okay, wow, yeah, this is a big threat that they had to deal with.
So a lot of people talk about the John McTiernan being able to go to the studio and say, hey, the initial creature design that we had with Jean-Claude Van Damme in the suit, it's just not working. You need to give us some more money. Get Stan Winston in here to get a creature design that's going to work for this film. And then him scoring Stan Winston, yes, that's only half of it, though. A lot of the credit has to go to Kevin Peter Hall being in that suit, giving the Predator his physicality and his personality. And,
he really does act the Predator.
He does.
It is a performance.
Yes.
He came just from working with Rick Baker in Harry and the Hendersons.
Yeah.
Another really strong creature performance.
Okay.
Into this, 7-foot monstrosity that dwarfs Schwarzenegger. Mm-hmm. But, it's the way he moves his hands. It's the way he cocks his head.
When he's pressing his buttons on his wrist gauntlet and things like that. The gracefulness in which he moves through the trees, I really appreciated that. Their initial designs, and then in the script, the brothers say that they had a more elaborate and detailed description of Predator's movements. It was more simian-like. And I don't know that that's why that creature that was not used, if you look at those designs, I don't know if that played into how it was initially written in the script, but they said that they wanted the Predator to be more simian-like, and at that point, he wasn't as big as he was as he is in the final form of the film, but they wanted him to be able to move amongst the trees like really fast. He had hands like he had the Eon Flux hands. He had the hands for feet to allow him more agility in the trees. But what happened was, even when they had Stan Winston come in and redo the design, and then they had Kevin Peter Hall put the suit on with his 7-foot stature, because John McTiernan said, okay, well, regardless of what it looks like, he needs to be more imposing if we're going to have the audience believe that he poses a threat to Arnold. So the making him bigger was a sticking point for McTiernan. But also, they said that even with his size and taking away the fact that he had hands for feet, they were able to do some things with the optical effects and the special effects to make his movements seem unnatural in the trees. And there's a gracefulness about the way the Predator moves, even when you don't see him earlier in the film and you just see the optical camouflage outline. And again, I think that's a testament to Kevin Peter Hall's physicality in that film. And even the subsequent film, even in Predator 2.
Do you find it interesting, just thinking about what you guys were saying about performance by Kevin Peter Hall, I think you said his name was? Mm-hmm. Like nowadays with Andy Serkis and motion capture performances, do you find that to be kind of like in the same vein?
Oh, of course. Yeah, I mean, also Doug Jones is a master of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, gosh. I just blanked on the actor. That's gonna kill me. Forget it. Skip it.
All right, so we have the final showdown between the Predator and Dutch. It doesn't last that long, and I didn't realize this until watching Predator and then Predator 2 back to back, because Danny Glover, his Mike Harrigan, he squares off against the Predator way more in Predator 2 than Arnold does in the first Predator, and even in Predators. With Adrian Brody's character, he squares off against the Predator more than Arnold does. And I was surprised this go around seeing that. I thought in my mind that fight lasted longer. I thought there was more back and forth between them, but it was really Predator smacking Arnold around, him crawling away up under that little booby trap thing. That was really the extent of it.
It's all about his Boy Scout skills.
Yeah, and
you know what's interesting? I'll ask you this, Lisa, since it's your first time watching the film. Well, of course, when I first saw it, I was 9 years old. It took me a while to pick up on it. But did you get why he didn't kill Dutch at first, like when he's like looking at his skull, or did you pick that up like when he grabs his face and he's like looking at him and he's looking at his skull?
Yeah, he's sizing up his trophy.
Well, I didn't even notice that. Yeah, that he wasn't going like, where am I gonna put this skull?
He's sizing up that trophy.
I think he saw. I think he looked at his skull and saw it and said, "Oh, this is a really good skull.
This is a keeper.
I'm going to give this guy the opportunity.
Predator
this is worthy of."
Is
that's
what I'm saying.
Like,
hard
it feels like
in that moment.
Like he's a match for him. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I
did
didn't
not get that. I did not even notice that happening.
Yeah.
I did notice, him looking at him and going, "Well, he's unarmed." And so now I'm going to put my gun down. I did notice that, but I did not notice the this is going to be another sweet skull.
I think at that moment he felt like this was a worthy adversary first.
Exactly. Exactly.
His skull is it looks so good that I'm going to give him a fighting chance. I'm going to let him work for this. And I'm gonna work for
I think that's a great way.
Is it on par with Billy's skull? Because he's already got a skull kind of similar to that. Like, once you've seen one human skull, you've seen every
because
human skull.
Billy tripped and fell off that log, he didn't get a chance.
His skull got split.
Yeah.
He did. No, he has a skull. He has at least one skull.
He does. Well, he has all their skulls. He has Mac's skull for sure.
That's the Predator's thing. They collect skulls of their game.
But the deal is, when he sizes up that skull, he knows he doesn't want to put a laser bolt through it the way he did Mac, because he doesn't want to scar that thing. This is his prized Schwarzenegger skull.
Yeah.
A skull this beautiful doesn't come every hunting season.
That's true, I guess.
Yeah. And I think that's a great way of building that mythology of who the Predator is and just their race and why he was sent to Earth from that very first shot. It does a great, without even really explaining a lot of it, we really get a lot of that backstory about the Predator itself.
Well, Anna does a lot of that too, because you start to learn that this is not a new occurrence for her people.
Okay.
And she talks about, what is that nickname? The El Diablo name that she gives.
But yeah, she said it means the demon who makes trophies of men.
Yeah, right. Which immediately makes me think of Leatherface. But that's telling you that this is like going on Savannah. And it's a concept that they would explore further in Predator 2 and Predators.
Yeah. And a cool throwback is in Alien vs. Predator 2 when the alien gets the distress beacon. The Predator gets the distress beacon from the down ship that crashes in Colorado all the way back on his home planet. He dispatches a ship to go to Earth to, track his brethren.
I just remembered the actor's name. It's Derek Mears, and he plays the classic Predator in Predators. He also gives good creature performances. He's Jason from the Friday the 13th.
Yeah, was he in Friday the 13th?
Okay.
Yeah. So
I feel better, listeners. Do you?
When that ship drops in AVP, when that ship comes to Earth to drop that Predator off, it's the same shot. It might have been redone with CGI, but it's the very same shot from the very first Predator where it does a flyby of the Earth, the pod detaches, and it keeps on going out into space. I thought that was a really cool callback. The Predator, Predator ends with Arnold ultimately getting the upper hand on the...
It doesn't come down to brawn, it comes down to brains. He has to outsmart the Predator.
Yeah, do it now!
Maybe the first time in his life.
Let me pull up my quote. Come on! Do it now!
It's like he's here in the door cave.
Kill me! Come on, do it!
You got to commit now. You got to keep going.
That was it, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so we have the end of the film. So the Predator not wanting to go down easily to be taken by Schwarzenegger throws all sense of honor out the window and sets off a timer on his arm and creates this huge explosion. And then we flash to the real Kevin Peter Hall piloting the helicopter that Anna has come and she's got to the chopper. She made it to the chopper. And they pick Arnold up. And then we get that shot that Brad was talking about where he's just looking spent. He's covered in like dust and he's looking out the window and he just wants to go home.
And then you have also Alan Silvestri's score,
Yeah,
which
I
we
wanted to
haven't
mention-
talked about.
Yeah, I wanted to
it's
mention
amazing.
that. Great score. Great
Percussive.
score.
Classic score. The opening of that film is just, it's everything because of that score. Like really it's just them landing on the beach, coming up, driving up the beach in Jeeps, getting ready to go meet the general to get their mission brief or whatever. But it's backed by Alvin Silvestri's score, which is just so iconic.
When I die and all you dorks perform the 4-gun salute, I want Silvestri's closing moments of the score playing because it does feel like taps.
Yeah.
You know, I don't deserve taps, but I deserve the Predator score from Alan Silvestri. At my funeral,
great.
I'll remember this.
It's a really strong score. And so, and then the film ends. The helicopter flies off into the sunset. And that's that's the end of one of the most unique and original science fiction films of all time. And it was so much fun, excuse me, going back to rewatch Predator, that I immediately followed it up with Predator 2.
So, at Mr. Coin Laundry, he says, the question is, do I like the first one or second one better? The answer is, I cannot choose.
I'll choose for you. Here's the thing.
Don't say it, Darren.
I'm sorry.
No, don't say it.
I will start by saying this. Predator is a masterpiece. The first film is a masterpiece. Oh, my Letterboxd rating, don't be fooled. Don't worry. I gave it 4.5 stars last night because, not because of the film itself, but it was just my experience with it. So I have there's a lot of controversy with the transfers. There have been more than one Blu-ray transfer, if I'm not mistaken. The one that I have is a re-release called the Ultimate Edition. And for whatever reason,
the plastic edition,
Fox Studios decided to go over people's faces and mess with their skin tones like in the Resident Evil Extinction, I think. Which one is in the desert? Extinction. When Mila Jovovich's face has that like weird sheen on it, like they do some CGI stuff to her face. Well, that happens in the skin tones in Predator the Ultimate Edition. And it's distracting. For the life of me, I cannot understand why they did this. But outside of that, it's a perfect film. Now, Predator 2, I had a blast watching it. The opening of the film, the opening of Predator 2 is better than the opening of Predator, first of all.
It's a different experience, Darren.
But it's an experience that, for me, was better than my viewing of Predator. Like
Scorpio is ready.
Yeah, the 90s were crazy when it came to action movies. So much so that even shocked the director when he went back and was watching it for the commentary. He was like, "Man, this I did this. we got away with that." Predator 2 was insane. There were more action set pieces in Predator 2, which I didn't realize that. There's a lot of clarity when you watch films like these back to back. The character of Mike Harrigan, Maria Conchita Alonso's character, Ruben Blades, and Bill Paxton. So you compare.
I think it's just Blades. I think it is Blades.
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure.
I'm pronouncing like Stephen Hopkins. He called him Ruben Blades.
He calls him Blades?
Yeah.
Really?
That was dope. Yeah. So, but if you compare those core against the core of John McTiernan's group, it's vastly different. Again, this was Predator 2 was post the advent of John McClane. So you have not the people with their shirts off. You have everyone with their shirts on, and it was LA,
sometimes,
and it was super sweaty. So armpit stains were just run amok in Predator 2. It was insane, even with suit jackets. So I don't know how you do that. But anyway, Bill Paxton had like part of his costume was suit stains, was under armpit stains. It was crazy. But
it was $190 99 degrees in Los Angeles.
I believe it. I really believe it. So he's
The fact that he's wearing a suit.
Thank you. But so yeah, it's a totally different experience, but it's an example of, for me, a sequel done right. You're giving me, there's some similar through lines. You have the familiar score, which I love the fact that the score carried over from the first film, but you're taking a different. You're putting the story in a different environment. You're giving me different characters.
But it does have similar archetypes.
It does.
I mean, you do have the Dylan character, the outsider in Gary Busey's Peter Keyes, and Bill Paxton is performing the Hawkins.
Yeah. So you have that. You have similar carryovers, but there's enough difference in there just with the setting alone that differentiates it from the first film. Yes, it's the concrete jungle, so I kind of like what they did there, but just it feels like what they're saying, what they open up with more in this film is the mythology that the Predator has. There's more than one, firstly, and they've been here more than once. They expand on that little tidbit from the first film, but you get to see. So you see what it's like if we were to go to a different location in a different time when a different Predator had come, and it feels right. It doesn't feel like it's a tacked on idea. It falls in line with the potential for the mythology and the world building. And Gary Busey's great. The cast in it is freaking phenomenal.
The lions, the tigers, the bears.
You got Gary Busey. You got
Adam Baldwin.
Adam Baldwin. You got freaking Robert Davi in a nice little cameo. Again, Danny Glover as the lead, which is just the best thing ever.
Mike Hardigan versus Murtaugh. Do it. What happens?
Harrigan whoops his ass, and Martin Riggs is like, "Dude, I'm sorry." And then you get Maria Conchita Alonso, and you get the diversity in that cast. You get a black lead actor, you get a Latin American actress co-star in Ruben Blades as well. Bill Paxton's in there, so you have a really
token white guy.
Yeah, token white guy. So you really got a really diverse group. And then again, the action set pieces, the shootout in the beginning, that attack on the train is great. It's a great sequence. You get the meat packing house.
Oh, with that flying disc.
That flying disc. So the proto disc is what it's called. The proto disc, and then that sequence that leads to the rooftop within the chase, and he falls off. The Predator lands in the apartment building with the old lady. And then ultimately the fight that takes place in the Predator ship. So you're expanding on the world because you didn't get to see the ship and how he got there to Earth in the first film.
Yeah, you did. That one shot.
But I mean, you don't get to see inside the ship. You don't know.
It's so gold and fancy.
You don't know what it's like.
And the ship at the end of Predator 2 is definitely not the ship at the beginning of Predator 1.
No. And then the best part is the reveal of the multiple Predators and then the cementing of how long they've been doing this when he gives Mike Harrigan a trophy, which is a gun from the 1500s or whatever, the 1700s, 1715. And Danny Glover is just so great in that. So yeah, like I had so much fun with it. And
Brian, where do you fall in the Predator 2 conversation?
I like Predator 2 a lot. I don't think it's as good as the first movie. Like you say, the first movie is a masterpiece. But you're right, Darren. You can have a lot of fun. I mean, and that for me, that my relationship with Predator 2 has grown for me to like really have fun with the film because it really felt like an inferior film when I initially saw it. And just the idea of Danny Glover, we come off of Arnold Schwarzenegger and then we go to Danny Glover, but living with the film for 20 plus years and going back and rewatching it, like Danny Glover's a badass in that movie.
He's a maniac.
And I guess the filmmakers knew something that me at that time didn't know. But yeah, he was really good. I have a lot of fun with that film. I mean, even the setting was a little off-putting at first. Like you're going from the jungle to, you could consider the city a jungle as well to a certain degree.
I liked the idea that that the Predator was attracted to heat and conflict.
Yes.
Because then, if you spin this out, and there's so many areas of the world where you can use that idea. So I loved the stark contrast between the jungle and then Los Angeles. I
like the dystopian nature of Predator 2. You know, it was filmed in 1990. It takes place in the far future of 1997, where LA gang wars are running rampant, and you have the Colombians versus a fucking voodoo magic man of the Jamaicans.
Jamaican posse.
And King Willie. And it feels like it doesn't quite... You know, we're not at Soylent Green level, but we're on our way.
Yeah.
And I like, you know, as a child, that was really scary, that we could be that close to mass chaos. It really feeds off of a lot of 90s paranoia.
But that's another thing I like too about the film is the fact that it takes place in a populated place, whereas in the first film you're in the jungle and you only have like this group of like 5 or 6 people. But now the Predator is in a populated city, and so you have so much room to kind of play with other things. Where like that subway thing, you have all these.
But he does seem to just keep popping up where the crew is, right? And like, why does the Predator show up at the graveyard just to, you know, be a prick to Danny Glover?
Because he's Danny Glover.
He wants. That's his prize. That's his prize hunt. His prize game.
He sees that Danny Glover is the.
I'm just saying he's
leader.
being a little bit more of a prick. As Predator.
Predator. And then I watched Predators with Adrian
Nobody
Brody.
cares which one I prefer, Predator or Predator 2.
I care, Lisa.
I think I know which one.
Of course it's Predator 2.
What? You like Predator 2 more than Predator 1?
I did, and here's why.
Yes.
Because
you're
I
dope.
can see that
You're both
Predator
crazy.
1 is maybe perhaps a better movie.
Not maybe.
And I said that. I said it.
But Predator is not my genre. I am not an action movie person, but I am a sci-fi person. And so, to me, Predator 2 tips more towards the sci-fi element, which really intrigued me. Plus, I did enjoy the diversity of the cast and the fact that there was a lot more of that interpersonal thing going on.
Not enough sexual Tyrannosaurus for me.
Okay, sorry to interrupt.
That's okay. Followed up with Predators. So it was Nimrod Antel's go at a Robert Rodriguez produced Predator film. And coming off of Predator 2, them going back to the first Predator for inspiration, to me, kind of was a detriment to the film. So I like a lot of the callbacks. The opening of it, that cold opening with them just falling in the sky, waking up mid free fall.
As at WB Doss calls it, it's raining men.
I really like that. I like the setup of the film of these people being dropped on this alien planet, which would act as a game preserve. These different types of quote unquote predators, human predators. I like that setup. I don't like that the planet was not too dissimilar from a tropical environment or somewhere here on Earth. It wasn't alien enough to me, but I understand that part of the setup has to be that they have to come to the realization that they're not on Earth. So, okay, I got that. But Adrian Brody I really liked him in that role in the film. Like, he was a different type of lead. He didn't, I don't think there was anything wrong with him just being like, look, you can stay here if you want. I'm just trying to get off this planet. I'm trying to take care of myself. I'm looking out for myself. Again, he was not a good guy. He's not supposed to be. The Predators picked all these bad people from different parts of the world to put him on this game preserve to hunt them. So the fact that he wasn't acting like a redeemable character for 99% of the film was totally fine to me. It was different and unique. Alicia Braga was great in the role. I really bought her in that role. And then everyone else was okay. It was good seeing Mahershala Ali in an early role. Walton Goggins. I always love Walton Goggins. Topher Grace was like the one character in the film that I just can't stand.
I think you're supposed to not like him in that, though.
Nah, but I just don't. Yeah, I don't mean like I just don't like his performance. Oh. I understand, like, yeah,
he's supposed
to be a sketchy guy. I just don't like that guy.
Yeah, he's a Weasley type character.
I think Predators is a great setup with a lot of missed opportunities.
Same. But
still fun.
It's still fun. It's still a fine film. It does that sword fight between the Yakuza and that one Predator, that was badass. I really like that. Lawrence Fishburne, know why he's in that film. I don't like his character in that film.
He is not Ghost Dog from John Wick Chapter 2.
No. And so, fast forward, I skipped over AVP. I'm going to watch that tonight because I didn't have it. But I did watch Aliens vs. Predator 2. And here's the thing. Here's my big takeaway. I did say earlier about my issues with the story and that woman's husband dying and you never hearing anything about that ever again.
And it looks like garbage. You can't see anything.
You know what? I watched the two-thirds of that film on my phone. I watched the first part of it on TV. Then my DirecTV thing was acting up, so I ended up watching it later on my phone. I saw the rest of it fine. It worked just okay.
Well, when you compact it down to the tiniest screen, Darren.
Yeah. So here's the thing. There are some effect shots in the beginning that were highly questionable. They're blue screen shit in the forest. I was like, I thought the directors of this film were like FX guys, VFX guys. They're brothers Strauss or whatever. But that notwithstanding, I was irritated about the human characters, those teenagers. They took some pretty bold directions and made some pretty bold choices. Firstly, with the father and the son getting killed and face hugged in the beginning. That was shocking. I totally forgot that girl, the main girlfriend, at the end gets friggin' giant predator ninja starred against the wall. That shit was shocking. I was like, oh, wow. I forgot that happened. That was pretty bold. But here's the thing. The Predator in AVP 2, the one that's sent to hunt the Pred Alien, which is such a corny name.
Oh, but it's fun.
It's my favorite Predator out of all the films.
Why is that?
Because he has so much character. He's doing detective work. He's hunting. He's actually hunting. He's going around to all these different places where there have been deaths caused by the aliens. I like the way he pours that stuff on there to make the bodies dissolve. So
he's the Batman of Predators.
He's not leaving a trace. But he has so much character in that film. I really like that Predator. The way he looks, he's tall, and he's not really bulky like the ones from the first Alien vs. Predator. He's tall and slender. He's more akin to Kevin Peter Hall's Predator, and so he's really more fast and graceful. And so the armaments that he has, the 2 shoulder cannons, that was badass. So everything about him, I liked. These are my favorite thing about the film. And so that guy Ortiz, that's been in a lot of stuff recently, was the sheriff of the
right.
Sheriff. Yeah, it's sad what happened to him. But I came away from that movie going, you know what? It's not that bad. It ain't great. It's no Predator 2. It's not Predators, but it's not Aliens vs. Predator either. I really enjoyed it.
I think you'll be surprised when you rewatch Alien vs. Predator. It is also not that bad.
But here's the thing.
I
had an issue with them not adhering to the mythology.
I hear what you're saying, and I agree with you.
And I don't like that they look too cumbersome.
They are bulky, but I think that there is character to the Predator in Alien vs. Predator, and I like the team up with the Ripley stand-in.
Mm-hmm. So, all right. So I'm going to watch that.
She has that shield made out of the alien
skull.
skull.
That's pretty cool.
All right. I'll watch.
I know you're going to because I gave you the Blu-ray.
All right. So, yeah. I'm glad you picked this for the ITMOD Film Club. I had a good time revisiting all these films, and I had a good time interacting with our listeners on Twitter. So thank you all for that. So now that we've got our ITMOD Film Club out of the way, it is time to commence with our next round of homework assignments.
Yes.
ITMOD homework. And so the next batter up is the Disco Dork. Yay! So
now,
it's time for me to do homework.
I know it's your pick for Film Club in the next couple of weeks after our go around. Did you pick our next Film Club, or you want to do that next week?
Yeah, I'll do that next week.
Okay. So as we kind of put a hold on our next Film Club, your homework, Darren.
What?
Let me ask you a question, Darren. Do you like to ride ponies?
Man, come on, man! No, man.
Yes, your homework is Magic Mike XXL.
Yay!
Come on, man. You just gonna skip over the first one? I ain't even seen the first one.
You don't need to see the first one.
I didn't see the first one. I could still follow it.
You don't need to see the first one. You ain't never seen it? And I remember somebody on social media was talking to you about it, saying, you should watch this film.
You
should
watch this film.
And it gave me a good idea. I was like, oh, Yeah, Magic Mike XXL. And I thought Brad had it, so he doesn't. I'm actually going to go ahead and buy because I need to have this on my shelf. So I'll go ahead and order this.
So do I, it turns out. I need to buy it as well.
And
I can watch it. I think it's on HBO. It's streaming.
When I watched it at the Alamo, I was enjoying a banana hammock sundae. So you should probably, I'll get you a recipe for that banana hammock sundae, and you can enjoy that. And then also I had those little printout Channing Tatum dollars. I'll make you some of those, and you can.
It's honestly though, I mean, and I felt the same way. But look, man, if you're securing your masculinity,
it ain't got nothing to do with that.
Like, what's the problem?
It's a really fun watch.
It's a really fun, and just like what Brad said, it's a movie that is really built on the friendship of these guys, and it's a ton of fun. I really enjoy watching this movie. I really enjoy watching
honestly,
this movie.
Darren, it's the very definition of ITMOD homework.
It is.
Something you wouldn't otherwise watch.
Yeah.
All right, Brian. You know you next. Your homework is coming up next.
Come on, man. I mean, look.
That's why Brad was so excited earlier. Oh, that's great. I can't wait. All right. Okay. All right.
There's the scene in the convenience
store.
store.
I've seen that scene.
Yeah, but not in context. It's fucking sweet.
Yeah.
All right, man. God damn it.
So yeah, let me know if you're able to stream it. If not, because I'll order it and I can just send it right to you. So either way, just let me know.
Okay.
So yeah, that should be a fun conversation.
Big Dick Richie.
Yeah.
All right, Brian, tell people where they can find you.
Okay, you guys can find me on on the social medias everywhere. Turtle Dork 1, Brian William Young, everywhere. Just search me.
Wife dog.
You can follow me at Sidewalk Siren, Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd.
Brad Gullickson.
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, Untapped, Snapchat, at MouthDork, where I will be freaking out over our Karan Kusama ITMOD chat cast that will be dropping in a couple weeks when we just did one with Kevin Burke, the director of 24 by 36. You should listen to that if you haven't already.
Yep. And I'm Darren Smith, the Disco Dork, at the Disco Dork on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Letterboxd. That's going to do it for us. Thank you all for listening. Enjoy the rest of your week. Be on the lookout for our In the Mouth of Dorkness Fistful Friday. We're going to have a fistful of fist fights. And, yeah, that's going to do it for us. So thank you all for listening. And until next time.
Get to the chopper!